also want to make a comment about the young man who spoke about being a gay Mormon, because I think there's this other inherent conflict that we don't talk about very much. And I used to say that being gay or lesbian was a great passport because it got you out of your small town, it got you out of this state in the middle of the country, it got you out of wherever these places that nobody else was getting out of. They're still there, selling used cars or something. I got out, and I think that's part of...
You didn't have to go to church anymore.
Right. Or temple on Friday night, like I had to go do here in town. But anyway, I did. If anyone went to the dedication of the temple theater, you had to go to temple Friday night. You had to wait for the rabbi to finish. Anyway, there is a way in which there's always been a geography attached to being LGBT. And there are people who defy that logic and stay where they grew up and hold on to an out identity. And my hat off to all of you, because I think most people can't do that. But I think it also makes it difficult to try to put those pieces together sometimes later in life when these kinds of issues come up. And I think it's an issue that really hasn't been addressed enough, these kinds of conflictual issues between the families and communities that many of us left behind, and how that gets implicated in certain kinds of politics, who we're comfortable talking to, who we're not comfortable talking to, and so on. So I just wanted to take a chance to point that out. And I know we have more people waiting, so I'll stop yakking.
Hi, I'm Dominique. I'm a transsexual lesbian from Salt Lake, and I've been involved with Cornelius for 5 years, and if we didn't love Ellen, we wouldn't do this. It's a lot of work, and we're tired. What I want to address is I'm also a Mormon, identified. I am not an active Mormon. I also did my missionary service. I was married. I fathered 6 children, and now I'm a fabulous lesbian. Now I'm embarrassed. I'm going to get emotional because I want to talk about the whole call to boycott Utah. And Ellen gets it, and GLAAD gets it. We need you here. For those of you who don't know Utah, can you picture Salt Lake City with 25 to 30,000 people at Pride? We do, for the last 5 or 6 years. We have the second largest parade in Utah. Join the Impact. We had estimates between 2,500 and 3,500. I was fortunate enough to give a speech. 3 of the, I want to give kudos to my sister, Stand Up Girls. Okay, these guys helped organize Join the Impact here in Utah. So we have a movement here, and we need your help because a lot of us are grassroots. A lot of us, these ladies stepped up. It's the first one they've ever organized. We need your help, especially creative queer people in film, because we don't know where to go. Misty is part of equalknox.org. We want to march on Salt Lake. We want 100,000 of you to come to Salt Lake on March 21st. And so, thank you for not listening to the boycott. Thank you for being here. Ellen, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
What also Salt Lake has, and the whole Utah region around here, is one of the most film literate communities there are outside of probably the 2 coasts. It's kind of really amazing. You don't know this because I go down there and talk to the people. We've been showing films down there for years. It's kind of amazing. It's like how theater was around the Guthrie Theater, if you know that. This is sort of like one of those film, even though there's old people that know shit, man, they know so much more than me about film. They're all quoting old movies, like independent stuff too. It's kind of fascinating.
But thank you for that great story.
I would just add to that. In my experience here as a filmmaker, the screenings have the most exciting aspects of the Q&A has always been with Salt Lake City residents, and I'm always surprised. I forget that residents come to this festival and have a whole other experience from those of us in the industry.
Great.
My name's Scott Robbie. I produced film and television pretty much for the last 25 years. I also identify as being an activist. And, I have to agree with Cooper, it's important to be in Utah. For a year I took a sabbatical, went away for a year. And I went to speak in Maine, in rural Maine a lot. And it really is important to reach those people. And what's so important about what Rob does is because gay and lesbian history really isn't taught. It isn't taught properly. When you see one of Rob's films, you understand what our history is. The thing that I think is important when we look at what happened around Prop A is that it really was a galvanizing event, much in the same way that the AIDS epidemic was a galvanizing event. And now we'll have to see what comes out of it. I think there's sort of a fear sometimes in the gay community to talk about direct action and the importance of direct action. And I think that it would be nice to bring that more into the dialogue, both from a perspective of teaching people about our history, and also to consider all of the tactics and all of the strategies that go into achieving the end goal. I think that, you know, there were a lot of us who in the 80s, when the AIDS epidemic occurred, went out there and made films for people like AIDS films for the African American community, when it wasn't very popular for both the straight and gay African American population. And we would have had African American leaders who were gay, like Howard Rollins, who fell prey to things that many gay and lesbian people fall prey to. So I think we really have to embrace talking about the aspect of direct action and what that brings to our movement. When you look at Laura Schlesinger trying to have a TV talk show talking about gays and lesbians in a less than nice way, and to realize that you can shut down a show like that through a boycott is important. And so I think we should really embrace that part of our history, which is direct action. In Gus's film, he chose to ignore what happened. Well, he chose it as an artistic choice to not talk about the riots that occurred when the verdict was returned about what Dan White did. So I think it's important that we embrace that history as well and talk about it more.
Thank you. Let's hear from a few more people, and then we'll answer all of these.
I'm going to be real short and sweet. I'm producing a documentary on Proposition 8, The Heart of the Matter, which is following the legal and civil
It's
issues.
in.
It's in.
Okay. Whenever you finish it, we'll show it.
Okay. So anyway, I'll be in the back. Everyone's kidding about it. I'll be in the back and I'll pass up some stuff, but I'm sure other people have better things to talk about. So come see me if you want to get involved. We're following all the way to the Supreme Court in March. And it's a neutral story, getting both sides, but I think it'll take care of itself.
Great. Okay. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to raise the issue of using film and other cultural activities to work in rural, small-town America and working-class America. Just quickly, a couple years ago, my partner and I went to Canada and got married and put our wedding announcement in the newspaper in the small town where I grew up, which is northwestern Pennsylvania, Rust Belt, America. And it created a huge controversy, but also an opening for us to pursue how do you work within these communities. And we used cameras to do it. And ultimately, we have a documentary called Out in the Silence that tries to engage that question of how do you deal with silence in these kinds of places, or what Thomas Frank called, what's wrong with Kansas. I think the question is, how do we engage in places, what's wrong, with the Rust Belt? And not that something's wrong with it, it's more what we have found is there's a plethora of people who are supportive of the kinds of things that we're talking about today, but have no organizing mechanism and no resources to support the struggles that are being born there now. So just kind of to put that on.
Could you just give the name of your documentary again?
Yes, in fact, we, by some crazy stroke of luck, have become Sundance Documentary Fellows this year. It's called Out in the Silence, and it'll be finished probably in the next 6 months or so.
Great. Yeah, and I think we have one more, and then I want to ask the panel to make comments. Go ahead.
Okay, this is kind of a follow-up question from earlier about leadership. I was talking about locals. I'm kind of a local. I'm from Idaho, and a small town in Idaho, and about leadership. There's of course there's lots of resources, and as a panel, I'd like to know, who can we empower? Who can we give that leadership to? Because I don't know. I just don't know who is a good resource. Where are good resources to find those leaders to make sure that they can stand out? Because I can tell people that I know around in those rural areas, and we can get that out. But we just don't know. Where can we find that, though?
You sound like you could be a great one.